C3. Morning, C3. How are you? Good day so far? Good day yesterday? I heard there was an after party that I missed. Some of you still feeling that this morning? Thank you very much for having me. This is one of my favorite cities, and of course, what an amazing theater to do this kind of show in. So I'm super happy to be here, both in New York, both with you guys, and talk about content marketing, and talk about rebooting content marketing a little bit. Did you know that the shipwreck is an invention? It is. The plane crash is also an invention. Burnt microwave popcorn, that's an invention. This idea comes from a guy by the name of Paul Virilio. And Paul Virilio was a French culturist, sociologist, philosopher. I think that's mostly the job title for every French person I know. And he had this idea, he talked about technology, and as new technology invades a culture, you inevitably invent the disaster resulting from that new technology. You invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck. You invent the plane, you invent the plane crash. You invent the envelope, you invent moon. Okay. All right, we got that straight. But you inevitably invent the disaster resulting from that technology. You can't help it. And I think this is a really interesting metaphor for where we are in marketing right now. Because in marketing, as we look at marketing over the last 17 years, as digital has really reared its head, we've scaled so high. We've come so far. We can do so much with technology. And yet, it's made us in a weird way as marketers kind of lazy about what it is we do. We now can dash off banner ads. We dash off content. We publish like there's no tomorrow. We publish websites. I worked with one company. They had 7 products and 50,000 pages on their website. Why? CMS, that's why. They could do it, so they published content. And that leaves us with a question today of where we are. Where are we with technology, with content, and specifically content marketing? Because it all comes down to these 3 little words. Anybody's tired of these 3 little words as I am? I am so sick and tired of these 3. I'm as tired of these 3 little words as I am about discussions with the Russian ambassador. I am so tired of these 3 little words. But I want to reboot this a little bit because the idea of content and what we do with content is truly about one thing. And that is building an audience. The content is merely a bridge. Content itself is valueless unless it does one thing, and that is build an audience. Actually develop a relationship with an audience. Has the audience do something that we want them to do. And so I want to reboot this idea of return on investment and talk a little bit about return on audience, because that is a new idea with content marketing that I hope can reboot something that may be struggling in your organization. So, it comes down to, what do we do? What do we really do? It's like, where do we put the emphasis on that word? What do you do? What do we do about this? Or what do you really do? Because you're here, I have no doubt that you're in marketing, digital marketing maybe, and I've got no doubt that you do it brilliantly. Your face is booked, your engine is search optimized, you're doing A/B testing, multivariate testing, you're wringing every inefficiency out of your digital funnel, and I've got no doubt that you do that brilliantly. But yet, there's this weird thing, there's this weird frustration with content. Why can't we make content work? Why is it so challenging? Why do we start to see articles like content marketing is bullshit? Why do we see content marketing is dead? Why do we see that content marketing was never alive, it never existed, giving me an existential crisis about my own career? And so when we start to think of it, our job as marketers, as communicators in our business, is really very, very simple. It's about access to audiences. It has been that way. I've been in marketing 30 years, and I can tell you it's been that way since the very beginning. Our job as marketers is to get access to an audience. And what we're trying to do is maximize the reach of that audience and minimize the frequency with which we have to put that message in front of that audience to have them do something in our favor. That's it. That's our job as marketers. Find the audience, reach them, maximize that reach, and minimize the frequency with which we have to do so, because the frequency represents cost. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now is one of the most iconic advertisements that's ever been run. This is, if you don't know it right away, this is Apple's iconic 1984 television advertisement. This is the one that was directed by Ridley Scott, won every award that you can think of, and has become one of the most iconic ads in terms of representing truly what storytelling and impactful advertising can be. Anybody know? Just shout it out. Anybody know how many times this ad ran? One time. It actually ran twice, fun fact for you to settle a bar bet. It ran once on New Year's Eve in 1983 so that it could qualify for a Clio Award, which it subsequently won. And then, yes, one time in the third quarter of the 1984 Super Bowl. That is the brass ring of what we're looking for. That is impact. That is maximizing our reach and maximizing the frequency to which we can do that and create the impact we're trying to create. So, that is where our marketing investment is. It always has been. Our marketing investment, that which we get money to do, is always in direct relationship to whatever our relationship is with the media these days. And boy, as Facebook might say, the relationship with the media these days is a little complicated. The relationship with the media has always been the way that we determine investment of our marketing dollars. And the question really becomes, what kind of investor are we going to be? What kind of investor are we? Today, in many cases, we are simply day traders, putting up campaigns and campaigns and campaigns, trying iteratively to get faster and faster and faster and iterate more quickly and generate more returns and more returns. And sometimes something goes viral and sometimes something doesn't, and sometimes it just falls flat on its face, and sometimes we never reuse the stuff that we create, and we're just day trading every single day and we're exhausted. Or are we value investors? Looking for the long-term value of building something that actually increases in value over time. That's a real question for us today as we start looking at the investment. So if we go back and we look against a scale, so at the upper left there, you see indisputably valuable. And at the lower left, you see, what the hell are we doing? Those are the sort of scales there. And then time. And as we say, as Joe and I have said at the Content Marketing Institute, content marketing and owned media has been around since the very beginning, hundreds of years. And if we go back and look, the value has kind of done a curve like this. Back pre-digital, we started to look at content and how we used owned media really as a loyalty tactic. And why was it a loyalty tactic? Well, it was because it was an audience we knew. Most of the content and marketing examples and owned media examples that you'll see from pre-digital, most of them are customer loyalty magazines or those kinds of things. Why? It was an audience we could reach. We knew where you lived, we knew where you worked, we could actually address you as an audience with something. And the content was valuable. Why? Because it was actually very expensive to produce. It was hard and expensive to produce a magazine. It was hard and expensive to produce something that was an event. It was hard and expensive to do a video. And then, as digital started to come around in the late 90s and early 2000s, the value just decreased precipitously. And why is that? Because it became cheap. Setting up a website was easy. Setting up social was easy. Yes, there was a thing called a MySpace strategy. We had a MySpace strategy, which puts Facebook strategy into perspective for you, but let's just move along, and Snapchat strategy puts that into perspective. But it became a marketing tactic. Content became a marketing tactic. It was the thing that we gave to the niece or the nephew or the things we didn't really understand in business. It was just sort of over there, the guy with the red stapler in the back of the room that said, okay, yeah, you go do that little digital thing. You go build a website. You go get our e-commerce situation on the super information highway all settled. But then something happened. As we moved further into the 2000s, it became a marketing strategy because it started to work. We started to see companies really get value out of this. We started to see things like the Content Marketing Institute say content marketing works. We started to see Red Bull and Kraft, Intel, IBM, SAP, all these companies start to get true value out of content. And it started to look like a marketing strategy. And many are still here today looking at the marketing strategy of content. And where I'll contend we're moving quickly is into content as a business strategy. Content is a business strategy that marketing people happen to perform. And I'll talk a little more about that in just a second. And then beyond that, content as business model. And that's where the value will truly be realized of content and owned media. Content as business model. What do I mean by that? One of the things that we have to do before we do anything is we have to pierce this wall of anxiety. This is where we are today, convincing the C-suite that content is worth doing. And this is our job. This is our remit today. As we and marketing professionals, the biggest thing that I work with marketing professionals, people like you, is to help them navigate the measurability, the strategy of navigating through that wall of anxiety that the C-suite has. This is not what we're in business to do. What are we talking about content and publishing and acting like a media company? We don't do that. We make widgets. Why should we do this? And I'll contend that this is our biggest job right now, is to help our companies understand the strategic nature of why we need to be in the content business. So when we look out into the future, we can see two things happening. One is acting as trusted advisor and the business strategy around that, the value of that. L'Oreal understands this really well. They've acquired their way into this. They acquired a company, Makeup.com. And you can see on Makeup.com not only wonderful content that talks about the virtues and how-tos of actually putting on makeup and what makeup to use and all of those kinds of things, but you're seeing them link out to non-competitive but other products. They have other products that link out to their e-commerce for moisturizing creams and other things. They would rather be trusted advisor to their audience and inherently move people away from their site, if so, in order to do that. CMO.com from Adobe, one of my favorite examples of content marketing. 25,000 senior level marketers as a subscribed nature basis of what they're doing at CMO.com. And they are looking at the consumption of that content to understand what senior level marketers care about. It helps them program Summit, it helps them program all of the things that they're doing, and helps their marketing be better. And their competitors are blogging there. You'll see blog posts from the VP of Marketing of OpenText. You'll see competitors from IBM or Microsoft blogging on their platform. And maybe my favorite is Arrow Electronics. Arrow Electronics is the largest electronics manufacturer on the planet. And as they look out, they've acquired 51 magazines, websites, email newsletters, millions of subscribers over the last 18 months. They are now the biggest media company in electronics. And why would they do that? Why would the electronics manufacturer acquire all these magazines, websites, email, newsletters? Because they're bolstering the education of an industry. The way they look at it is if they can float the industry in education, and the way most electronics engineers get their education is through these magazines, through these websites, they're making sure that the health of this publishing industry stays, and it's a rounding error for them in terms of the budget, and they're making money doing it because they're accepting advertising from their competitors. They're actually making a business model out of the work of creating a publishing-oriented system that keeps their market alive. And on that score, we start looking over the companies that you see on the right-hand side there. Every single one of them are building or have built an internal content studio. 3 of them, Red Bull, Mondelez, and Pepsi, are doing so at a profit. Red Bull, of course, is the quintessential example of this. It's a content marketing presentation, by the way. I'm contractually required to mention Red Bull. That is, I sort of have to do that, so Red Bull. But if you actually ask Red Bull, they don't look at themselves as the marketing arm of Red Bull. They'll actually tell you that they're a for-profit business. They sell advertising, they sell syndication, they sell their content, and they make money doing it. And they also happen to be the largest marketing arm of the soft drink. Pepsi, right here in New York, is creating a content studio that actually is setting up the ability for other brands to use their content studio to create content. The revenue that they generate from that, as they've said, will be used to generate their own content for brands like Pepsi and Frito-Lay. The world is changing in terms of how we're looking at content and the purpose and strategic nature of that in the business. But even looking just at the business strategy of content, to subscribe an audience and get value out of that subscribed audience. Maybe you knew that Johnson & Johnson owned BabyCenter.com. Maybe you didn't. You won't find Johnson & Johnson's logo anywhere on BabyCenter.com. They have 4.5 million subscribed moms and some dads, I'm sure, to that website. They reach 19 million people every month with their content, and consumers willingly give them data. They also sell advertising, not to competitors, but they actually make money. It is a separate division of J&J. It makes money. Now, why would they do that? What would their reason be? Well, with 4.5 million opt-in subscribers that willingly give them data, they can tell you whether the headline "Sleep through the night, sleep tonight, or sleep overnight" is the better headline for a brand manager to use for one of their products. Sleep through the night, by the way, if you'd like to know. Although sleep just generally for parents, I'm thinking, is probably the right answer there. The other reason is that they look at it and they know that for a fact that moms plan their baby's first birthday at 10 months. That's invaluable information for a brand manager who's looking to roll out a new product. Making their company smarter by creating a subscribed audience and making everything else they do in marketing better. Or how about winning a customer? Indium. This is where I get to out-boring you. You can't tell me you have a boring product or a boring story. Indium makes soldering equipment. Yeah, soldering equipment. Make soldering equipment sexy. They have 14 different flavors of solder, or 17 different flavors rather, and 17 different blogs. Each one manned by an engineer. They have professional writers that help the engineers write. And each one of those 17 different blogs is being translated into 6 different languages. If you ask me who the biggest media company is in soldering, it's not a media company, it's Indium. And they're using it to drive 700% year over year more leads than any other program they're doing, creating trust with engineers to drive them through the funnel. Or how about growing an advocate? Using content to grow an advocate. I love this story. TD Ameritrade, institutional and consumer-based banking. When you sign up to TD Ameritrade and you're going to be a broker or a stock trader, you get into the program, and your average trading velocity, once you get in there and start trading stocks, is 1 time per week. Then they acquired a magazine called Think Money Magazine. It came as part of an acquisition that they did of another platform called Thinkorswim. The Think Money Magazine, which is a print magazine, by the way, they start sending that to you as a customer. And after you become a customer and your trading velocity is 1 time per week, they start sending you this magazine that teaches you to be a savvier investor, a smarter investor. Your trading velocity goes up to 5 times per week. They quintupled the velocity of the transactions they were creating with their customer by creating something of value that they wanted, that they subscribed to. It's being used to grow an advocate. The challenge is that right now, strategic content is really stuck in average. We do studies every year, and our big study that we do, and there's our 2017 study, we do it at the end of 2016 and call it our 2017 study, found some really interesting thing about the state of content marketing. Basically, half of you are serving content as a content marketing function to the larger business. Great example of this. I worked with a manufacturer, and the woman who handled content marketing said, yeah, I'm a team of 3 people. We support 7 products, every global region, and PR, and demand generation, and brand marketing. She said, how am I going to scale this? And I said, you're not. Stop trying. Holy crap. This is where we are, though. Half of us are a small group. We're sticking our toe in the water. 36% have any documented strategy at all. By the way, the biggest gap that we see between those who are succeeding with content marketing and those who aren't succeeding is a documented strategy, letting everybody know that this is official. This is actually something that's really happening. Only 36% have it. 57%, maybe because they don't have a documented strategy, almost 60% have zero idea what success looks like at all. No idea what success might look like. And then my favorite stat, and the one that really keeps me up at night, 20%. 20% of companies are committed to the practice of content marketing. 20%. It's a very, very small percentage. But is it any wonder that we're not committed to the practice? Because we don't have any idea what success looks like, we don't have a documented strategy, and we basically put 2 people in charge of the entire thing. This is where we are. Now, we come by this very honestly. Because we're having a media discussion, we have to talk about media, and Marshall Mcluhan is one of my favorite media gurus out there. If you don't know Marshall Mcluhan, he wrote a book called Understanding Media. He's the guy who said the medium is the message. And he said something really interesting a long time ago. He said, the problem is that when a new media comes into play, we tend to look at it through our old eyes. He called them the old stereos. We look at it through our old eyes, our old perceptions. And we bring that to the new medium instead of asking how the new medium is actually going to fundamentally transform us. This is where we are today, because if you look at the classic example of this, when we invented television, the first thing we did was we spun the television cameras around and filmed the radio plays. That's what we knew how to do. First thing we did when we invented the web in the late 90s, what did we do? We set up websites that were what? Extensions of our Yellow Page listings. About us. Here's our location. Here's our executive bios. Why do we still have executive bios on our website? Who the hell cares? But we do it. And this is where we are. Many of us still have websites that are just extensions of Yellow Page listings. And it's changing the way that the old media looks too. What Marshall Mcluhan also said was the new media also changes the way that we look at the old media. Advertising, whether you think advertising is dead, dying, evolving, I think the latter. When we look at advertising, it is changing below our very feet with native advertising, promotion, social posts, all those kinds of things. The IAB just came out at the end of 2015. I love this statistic so much. They said basically 70% viewability on banner ads, digital ads. That's as good as it's going to get, folks. That should be our level of expectation as marketers, 70%. Ad blocking, ad fraud, all of those things will account for 70% viewability. Think about that for a second. As an industry, we're willing to accept a 30% task on our media buy rather than do something completely different. Google, if you believe Google, says 56% of all ads are never seen. So it goes all the way back to the 1800s when John Wanamaker, the famous department store magnate, said, half my advertising is working, I just don't know which half. But now, it's half my advertising is blocked, I just don't know which half, which is Justin Timberlake, I think. I think you have to source your quote, so I'm going to source it to Justin Timberlake for this point. But that's where we are today with digital advertising. We still view content through a classic advertising lens in which we're trying to get some campaign-oriented value out of it, or through some notion of an inbound lens where if we just create enough of it, we'll be found. Somebody will find us and find value in it. And neither is working really very well. That's the challenge. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe this is a circular argument, but the key is that you will only build an audience, that thing that provides value, when you build something that demands an audience. It's that simple. You have to build something that demands an audience aggregate rather than just look at your stuff piecemeal. This is what we have to stop doing, because when I talk to marketers and large organizations, and I've talked to 200 over the last 18 months, this is a very common thread, and maybe this will ring true for you. So there's this thing called marketing. This is how content marketing gets started in most organizations. There's this wonderful thing called marketing, and we're in marketing. And somebody from marketing goes to a conference, maybe it's Content Marketing World, maybe it's a conference like this, they read a book, and they go, we should do some content marketing. We need to do that. Let's get somebody to do that. And so they go, great, let's do some content marketing. And let's get somebody to do that. Let's get one person to do that. We should get a whole strategy and a whole team and really invest in this. But no, let's get one person. Let's name him Frank. Frank is our guy. And they say, Frank, you are going to be our guy in content marketing. And Frank goes, I'm ready. I'm going to be your guy in content marketing. And the marketing team goes, all right, Frank, thank you very much. First quarter, here we go. We need assets, Frank. We need an asset for this campaign that we're going to run. Frank goes, awesome, I'm on the job. I get bonused if I do 4 white papers this year. So, okay, first quarter, first white paper, I'm on it. Blog post, we've got to have a blog post. That'll support your campaign. I'll do a webinar. Webinars are really cool. That'll support your campaign. And the marketing people go, thanks, Frank, that's really awesome. Then we get to the second quarter. And the marketing people go, hey, Frank, we need an asset because we're doing a website redesign and we need assets that are content marketing oriented. And Frank goes, okay, I'm a little tired, but okay, second quarter, second white paper, I'm on track for my bonus. Okay, so great. I'm going to do my content marketing and I'm going to give you that white paper. And we're going to do something about the cloud because everybody's talking about the cloud these days. So let's do something on the cloud. And the VP wants a video for the website. Well, he sucks on video, but it doesn't matter. He's the VP. Put him on the cloud. Okay, we're going to put him on video. Okay, great. Well, there's your website redesign. Yay, okay, thanks, Frank. Thanks for those assets. We get to the third quarter, and they go, Frank, we need assets for the third quarter. And Frank goes, okay, I'm on it. Okay, third quarter, third white paper, I'm on it, I got it. Another blog post, please. Got to have another blog post. We haven't blogged in like 2 months, but that doesn't matter. Get a blog post going. We got to get. What about social media? Screw social media. I'm not even talking to those people right now. I can't even deal. Okay, we're going to get that. So I'm on it. Here, that'll support your campaign. And the marketing people go, thanks, Frank. Then we get to the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter happens, and they go, Frank, we need more assets. We haven't made any sales. And Frank goes, okay, hold on, I got to take a knee. Okay. I got to take a knee. So fourth quarter, fourth white paper. Bonus. I got my bonus. Blog post. Got to have another blog post, please. Email. Joe Pulizzi said email isn't dead. Let's do an email. Okay, we'll do an email. So we do an email. We do something on another white paper. And there we go. We finished out our year. And that's Frank's year. Frank has created a disconnected pile of assets. He's got assets coming out of his assets. And this is where we are. This is where Frank is. We're Frank. And some of those assets were good. That white paper that they created in the second quarter was awesome. People shared it. It worked. Let's use it again. Wait, what? Use it again? What are you talking about, use it again? Where is it? Well, we put it in the resource center. The resource center, which is neither a resource nor a center of anything. You have to have a resource center because you have to have a guy, Shutterstock, with the guy leaning back because he's so relaxed to seeing your assets. He's so, I'm getting so much thought leader-y stuff here. And by the way, we have to use the template because of the CMS. The CMS template is the way we do things. Why? CMS, that's why. Well, okay, and we have to have a call to action because it has to be a call to action. The sales guys are never going to let us not get away with request a quote. And if you scroll down, well, then we have all sorts of thought leadery stuff. We got like white papers. We got like 9 of them. 9 thought leadery white papers. Yay, go look at the thought leadery white papers. We've also got webinars. If you watch one of these, you know a sales guy's going to track you down at home, open up your window, crawl into your bedroom, and actually bug you in the middle of the night Because you watched a webinar. We don't know why we have the social channels there, but the social people will be pissed if we don't put the social channels on the Resource Center. We got to make it in orange. And because the CMS can, we integrate the corporate blog, so we put the corporate blog where we talk about, yay, there's a new video from our VP. Have you seen it? It's really cool. Also, here's our trade show booth. Aren't the pictures awesome? And that's our Resource Center. And what do we do in the Resource Center? This is my favorite thing of all time. In the Resource Center, we make a choice because there are questions. Gated or ungated? The question that plagues marketers since the time of on. Marketing, content must be free. Sales, I need the leads. You must give me the leads. No, content must be free. No, we need the registrations because that's how we measure. If we're arguing whether or not we should be gating an asset, we don't have a content marketing strategy. We simply have a direct marketing strategy in which we're trying to determine which of the assets are worth extracting some level of data. And if we're arguing about it, we're pretty sure they don't. And that's where we are with content marketing. Instead, there might be a better way. Looking at building an audience, having a vision out in time of something that we can build, building something of value, and then working backwards to create big tentpole pieces to say, these are the wonderful things that will make people subscribe to our wonderful asset or whatever it is. Resource Center, Academy, digital magazine, platform, whatever your wonderful thing is. Because that's the thing. When people subscribe to something, they're not subscribing to what they got. They're subscribing to what they're going to get. When you subscribe to a magazine, it is not because you got something in the airline. It is not because someone handed it to you. It is not because you paid for it. It's because you opened it up and you read it and you went, wow, that's great. I want more like that. You're subscribing to something you don't even know exists yet. You're subscribing to a promise. That is a subscriber. That is someone who wants to hear from you. And that, I dare say, is data that is more valuable. So yes, create those tentpole pieces that builds toward that, what the kids might call minimum viable product these days. And then yes, the webinar, yes, the infographic, yes, the blog post, yes, all of the SEO optimized things that we do to pull that audience in and build that audience to those tentpole pieces that ultimately create that bigger thing. And then of course campaign-based marketing. Of course campaign-based marketing. We have to support that. But here's the thing, if we create a strategic editorial calendar that is building towards something, those assets inherently make great direct marketing assets. Why? Because they're valuable. And if sales goes, well, this one needs a little more call to action, this one needs my picture, this one needs a coupon, this one needs more me, then we can do that. We can say, great, we're going to make special versions just for you. But we're not going to lose vision of the thing that we're building, even if we don't build it. CEO came up to me after one of these talks and he said, okay, Robert, I get it, minimum viable product, the thing, vision, I get it. We're not going to do it. He said, we just don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the budget, we don't have the team to build something. I said, great, don't. Thinking strategically doesn't cost you a dime. Thinking about what you would create and having the vision to do it and having a plan to do it doesn't cost you any extra. And then at the end of Frank's year, you don't have a disconnected pile of assets. You've got a disconnected or connected pile of raw materials that you could build something should you choose to. And that becomes a smarter way to figure out what it is we really do. What do we really do? Because there are two things as we navigate through that wall of anxiety that the C-suite cares about. Revenue and cost, that's it. And when we look at content marketing, rebooted, we can simply look to what do audiences do in our favor that others do not? And chances are they will do more things in your favor because they're engaged. They're already getting value from you. And cost, how can we reach with more frequency audiences that we have versus those that we don't? Is it less expensive or more efficient over time? So we can look at that across 4 categories of value, business value: competency, campaign, customer, and cash. So quickly, those 4 categories. Competency. Can we become a smarter organization? Can we use the data that we're acquiring and that subscribers are willingly giving us to optimize things like shopping carts or our websites or our buy channels, where we can use the data to make us a smarter marketing organization, giving us an effectiveness on a media buy? One of my favorite things that Kraft did with their online recipes database is that they uploaded all of the subscribers they had into Facebook and used it as a targeting mechanism to target on Facebook for those that were surfing that content. And then they did lookalikes of those things, using the data to make us smarter and more efficient. They're getting a 4x media buy on their digital ad media buy by using the data that consumers willingly give them in exchange for value. A smarter marketing database. Getting beyond mickeymouse@gmail.com and give me the damn white paper at gmail.com. That's mine, by the way, if you see that in your database. But getting into real first name, last name, zip codes, industry, and where they are in their journey. Campaign value. Looking at campaign-based value, of course, where we often focus, more leads, better leads, more active, faster leads, they buy more stuff from us. Absolutely, those are metrics and value that we can create. Customer value. Can we decrease churn rates? Can we increase loyalty rates? Using content-driven experiences to actually drive business value. Create higher brand loyalty. Creating an experience. Not irony, notwithstanding of this experience. Can we create a brand experience that is separated from what we do with that company every year to drive more loyalty to that company? Cash. Can we actually generate revenue or mitigate cost using content-driven experiences in order to do that? Whether it's revenue-driving opportunities like what you see with Red Bull, or simply doing a user conference where you have sponsors come in and pay for the privilege of getting in front of your audience to actually help you mitigate the cost of something that you're doing in marketing. Can we actually generate cash? All of those values are possible. I've seen them all work. But the key is there is no dashboard for it. There is no Google report for this. There is no Marketo report for this. There is no Adobe Analytics report for this. You have to get out of your seat. I love what the previous keynote said. You got to get out of your cubes. You got to get out of your seat. You got to go talk to people. Vishal Khanna, who is wonderful, Content Marketer of the Year for CMI a couple of years ago. He's the content marketing lead at Wake Forest University. He's got 4, 5, 6 blogs now across a network that he creates with different audiences. Doctors, research scientists, moms. And he creates this wonderful content as a program within his business for different business purposes. And what he said is, value doesn't always come in the form of a form fill. Sometimes it comes from the call to the receptionist. Sometimes it comes from the call to the sales guy. Sometimes it comes in the conversation at the actual trade show. We've got to get out and meet with our constituents, our salespeople, our marketing people, our brand people, our PR people, and figure out where to attribute content and how to use the audience that we can to help make their lives easier, help make the business better. That is the strategic nature of content. So when it comes down to what do you really do? What do you really do? I hope the answer to that question is that you create remarkable experiences. That's my hope, is that as you evolve in what you're doing with content, that your job becomes to create remarkable experiences. So what should you do? What can you take forward? I hope you take 4 things forward. 1, I hope we can start to invest in experiences that build valuable audiences. And one of the things that is common there that we have to do is figure out what we're going to stop doing. Very commonly, I'll be working with a client in a consulting engagement, and I'll sit with them, and we'll work all day, and we'll roadmap out this wonderful MVP, and it'll be this beautiful vision, and we've roadmapped out the tentpole pieces, and we've figured out where the satellite pieces are going to be, and how we're going to promote the content, and how it's going to work as a content product. And somebody around 4:30 or 5, tired, will say, I just have one question. We still gotta fill in the blank. We still gotta do that newsletter for sales. We still gotta fill the pipeline. We still gotta do that content. We still gotta do that keynote for the CEO. We still gotta, and then my question to them is always, what are we gonna stop doing? Now, here's the question I'll always ask, which is, what if we just stopped publishing today? Like literally, no more Facebook posts, no more LinkedIn posts, no more Twitter, no more blog posts, no more white paper. Just literally stopped publishing content today. Some of you are having a heart attack right about now. But the question is, who would miss it? Who would miss it? And if the only answer is our boss, we have a problem. And we need to ask ourselves, what can we stop doing so that we might retrain ourselves to do something new? 2, put together a media product plan. What does your MVP look like, even if you don't build it? What is the vision of content for a strategic editorial plan that builds value in an audience over time? Hopefully you can build something. But even if you can't, look at it. 3, map those tentpole pieces. What are the big pieces that make up the vision of this thing that you're talking about? If it's an academy, what are the 18 classes that need to be there? If it's a digital magazine, what are the core feature articles that need to be in the first issue? If it's a resource center, why not organize it a little differently instead of by content type? Instead of saying, here's our white papers, here's our infographics, and here's our videos, which always cracks me up when I go into a resource center, because it's a bit like going into the library and having the librarian say, hey, paperbacks are over here and hardbacks are over here. Good luck finding what you need. What if it's a resource center that actually walks people through based on some vision of what you have for the way that you're going to help them through their resource? And so finding out what it is, those things, map them. When can you create them? How can you create them? And how do they create marketing strategy that integrates 3, 4 into the broader communication strategy? How can you integrate that value? Finding where the salespeople need help, finding where we can add data to make the media buy more effective, finding where we can create an SEO optimized strategy by using this, finding the value in the organization to create a strategic value using this owned media experience and the audience that it builds, finding that integrated value, working with your colleagues, and mostly believing in the ship. Believing in the ship. Because here's the thing. When we invent the shipwreck, we also invent the ship. Because of the plane crash, it's because we've invented the plane. Because of moonlight and, wait a minute, hold on, that's that metaphor stretched too far. Okay. But because we can create the disaster, it's because we've created the innovative new thing that will change our world and the business that we work in. One of my favorite things is to ask, what if we're wrong? Like, what if I'm wrong about all this value? What if I'm wrong about the competency? I'm wrong about the cash. I'm wrong about all this stuff. All those things, those are outliers that are happening. What if we're wrong? CEO came up to me and said, yeah, I don't believe in the content marketing. I don't believe that we can do this. I don't believe that audience, I don't believe that's our business. I said, great, don't. I said, but are you creating more content or less content this year? And they said, well, we're creating more. 200% more if you believe Forrester. Every year we're creating more and more content. I said, great, that's a cost, right? Independent of how you look at it, it's a cost. Yes, it's a cost. Doesn't it even then just make sense to get your arms around that cost? To create a strategy and a vision for content in your organization, even if the only benefit is to get your arms around the cost that you're already spending? And he said, yes. And I said, great. Now we agree that a content marketing strategy is important. Now all we're differing on is all of the different kinds of value that it can provide. And so let's talk about it. Let's experiment. Let's work. Let's actually try and invent the disaster. One of my favorite examples of all time of this is what happened in the early 1900s in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And of course, this is the Wright brothers and their first experimental plane flights. And when this happened in Kitty Hawk, you would have thought that the world exploded. You would have thought that it would have been an amazing thing. Like everybody would go, oh my God, this is amazing, we have to do this. But it didn't. We had our heads so wrapped around that human flight was absolutely impossible. It was 3 years. It wasn't that they kept it a secret, but it was 3 years after they did their first test flight in Kitty Hawk that the New York Times had an article where there was a guy interviewed who was a hot air balloonist who was asked, is there any possibility of human flight ever? And he said, I think there's some interesting experiments going on in Kitty Hawk. So work quietly as we work through this. Working quietly through all of the things we're doing. And as you go forward from these days and into the days beyond, into 2017, and really figure out how content's going to affect your business, I hope we'll all go quietly and invent the disaster together. Thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate it.